It's good to be here. Good smells in the air. And very happy. My name's Buckwalter. And very happy to talk a little bit about Mark chapter 8 and 9 at Micky's request and with his Bible study that he's been doing. And this is if you have your Bibles in front of you, you can see that you've been walking with Jesus in Galilee. After his baptism by John, there was a voice from heaven, God's voice, who then declared that Jesus is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. And at that point, then we see Jesus in ministry throughout Galilee. And in chapter 8, we are coming to the end of that description of Jesus in public ministry. He still is in Galilee, but there's a very important event that's going to come. And the end of chapter 8, the beginning, it's focusing on seeing, experiencing. As all of this has been for the disciples, Jesus feeds the 4,000. And after this, then he tells the disciples to be very careful about the teaching of the Pharisees and of Herod and so on, because it's going to mislead them. And they wonder if Jesus is saying this because they forgot to bring bread. And then he reminds them about the feeding of the 4,000 and 5,000. There's a seeing that's really important. That isn't just looking at material things like bread, or for us, things we have like cars and houses and so on, but seeing Jesus for who he is, and then being able to make choices in life in light of that. What we have coming is another voice from heaven in this section that's going to be very important. So the idea of seeing Jesus for who he is going to be paramount. That if they're going to be able to walk successfully with him as his disciples, they've got to be able to understand who he is. But the advantage of this is they're going to be able to see it for themselves. And so this is going to be there at the end of chapter 8 and into chapter 9. Jesus is going to ask the disciples, who do you hear people? They're out in the crowds. They hear people talking about Jesus while he's teaching. He says, what kinds of things do you hear them saying? And they say, well, some say you're John the Baptist or a prophet or Jeremiah or whatnot. And then Jesus says, how about you? And you remember about the significance of that, where Peter says, you're the Christ. And Jesus accepts that. And so as Micky will go into more detail, with this, the significance of this is going to build, so to speak, to Jesus giving a passion announcement, a statement about discipleship. In a sense, it's building, almost like he's going to climb the mountain of transfiguration. The text is building as well. That the foundation is Jesus as the Christ. Then he's going now for the first time to say, and as the Christ, I've come to die. And then he's going to say, those who follow me pick up their crosses and go with me. And now we're at the top of this kind of movement of the text, but also, and it's literally up the mountain where Jesus is on the top of the mountain. His transfiguration happens. The disciples see, they're terrified. They see him with Elijah and Moses, and then a cloud envelops them, and the voice says to the disciples about Jesus, behold, my beloved Son, listen to him. And so if you think about, as Micky will guide you, as you think about the events that just preceded that, Peter's confession, passion announcement, what it means to be a disciple, are all hard. Because right after he says he's the Christ, he says it's the Christ I've come to die. And of course, that wasn't expected. And then what does it mean to follow the Christ? It means to pick up your cross. That wasn't expected. If Christ is going to reign in his glory, what cross is there to pick up? And so this has shaken them, and yet they're seeing Jesus for who he is, the mission he has come, his divine glory with the transfiguration, and then his Father saying, behold my beloved Son, listen to him. And so if the readers, if the disciples, if we are going to be oriented right in this world, it's almost like a compass, like a plane flying in through a lot of fog. How do we have any hope to know where we're going? And we're told that pilots fly on their instruments. They could almost cover the windshield and not see out and land the plane safely because of the instruments they're looking at. If we look at the world to try to get our orientation, we'll probably get off course because the world doesn't see God clearly, and we'll go a wrong direction and won't be helpful to those around us. But our instrumentation that will always help us land safely, get to our destination well, is Jesus Christ. Doesn't mean it's easy. He's come to die. And so what does that mean for us as following him? And yet that death has brought life eternal. So rather than being an obstacle, it becomes the means by which we enter into that eternal fellowship with God. And so as Micky will guide you then through this particular material, in a sense as the text is coming back down the other side, we see Jesus now encountering a dad whose young son, demons keep trying to throw into fire and water in a culture where you used fire every day to cook, and every day you drew water from deep wells. This was a constant risk. And this actually becomes, maybe surprisingly to you, a picture of discipleship. Man didn't have a lot of faith, but he just clung to Jesus and said, help me in my unbelief. And it's a picture of discipleship. We don't become secure in our own being able to do what we want to do, but a good disciple is one who just clings to Jesus, looking to him for his help. And we have another passion announcement, and then a conversation about greatness. And so we're down at kind of the base now of this literary movement. We worked up to this peak of the Transfiguration, and now we're back to kind of the foundation level again, where Peter said, you are the Christ. And now on the other side, what does it mean to be great? It means to be servant. And to do that, we'll be able to see Jesus right, because he's come to be servant, to die the slave's death on a cross. So again, it's about that right focus and being able to fly on our instruments and land safely. Not that we have the ability, but the instruments have the ability to land us safely. And so if that's in an airplane, how true is it with ourselves morally with Jesus Christ for eternity? And so it'll be just as a quick, to use the metaphor, a quick flyby here, going over this text, and then there are some important things following in chapter 9, depending on if you have time after this. But that's the lion's share, the real heartbeat of these two chapters. And so it'll be fun for you to be able to linger with Micky and thinking about these things out loud. And of course, then all the time, touching base on the idea of this instrumentation and how Jesus is that accurate compass, so to speak, through this world, in a world that's very foggy, a world that has lost sight of God, can't see him, very self-absorbed, and in desperate need of him. That God has people in this world, all over the world, that can see well, not because of their own Superman abilities, but because of the abilities of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who has come into this world. And as we pick up our cross and follow him, we'll be able to see as he sees. And as people look at us then, not because of us, but because of him, they'll be able to see him in a way as he is. And so enjoy your time with Micky and thinking out loud about this as far as understanding the text, but then what it means to follow Jesus, and then what God will do with that, not only in our own lives and fellowship with him, knowing him better, but then also as we're able to give him away to others and draw them to Christ, or for his followers to encourage one another to in our walk with him. Well, we're at Zig's and the smell is very good, so maybe we'll go and have some breakfast. Some breakfast. But thank you for the opportunity of just to talk here for a few minutes. Take care. Bye.